Well, the judge has issued a gag order in the case against Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk. Yesterday, we covered Candace Owens and what she had to say about her willingness to violate the gag order. And I'm going to actually read the order for you guys, and then we're going to dive into what this means for the internet as people want to be able to cover this case and expose and make sure that there's as much transparency as possible. So this is a tweet from Mario Knopfler. He said a Utah judge has issued a gag order in the case of State versus Tyler Robinson, restricting lawyers from making public statements that could affect the trial. The order, filed in Utah's 4th Judicial District Court, bars attorneys from either side from releasing extrajudicial comments that could prejudice proceedings. And again, this is relatively common, especially in a high-profile case. So when Candace Owens tweeted this, people are wondering, is she inserting herself into the story, or is she a known witness? She says, "Don't worry about the gag order in the Charlie Kirk case. I plan to violate it on the world's behalf. The things I've discovered this past week are enough to burn the house down. Yes, Charlie was betrayed by everyone." So Candace hasn't done any live streams, so we don't know exactly what evidence she has, what she's talking about here. But with regards to the actual gag order, people are saying it's pretty standard. The protection order is lawyers who have participated, who are now participating, or who will yet participate in the investigation or litigation in the case. And, this is done for various reasons, which is totally fine. I let this play out in the courtroom, not in the media. But this shouldn't stop people from speculating. Listen, there's been a lot of drama, not really just in my community, but in the internet community with regards to Candace Owens inserting herself into this case. Candace Owens is or was a friend of Charlie Kirk's. People have accused her of making this about her, and this is her desecrating the movement, which, again, I just call BS on that. Candace Owens is a human just like you and I. If she wants to share her thoughts and opinions, people can decide to listen or not. And yet there are plenty of content creators that are privately pressuring other content creators not to cover Candace Owens. We've seen this play out not just with friends of mine or former friends of mine, but also, through petitions and things like that. You're only making Candace Owens more famous if that's what you want to do, is silence her. If she ends up getting it wrong, it'll go against her on her batting average of credibility. If she finds evidence that, the FBI is unwilling to present, or, wants to interview people that question the bullet type and where's the exit wound. If she has all these questions, I say go for it. This isn't an 80-year-old case that's been resolved and now we're relitigating it. No, this is out there, and this is just the way the world works, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't mean everything Candace reports I believe. You know what I think it comes down to, and I've actually gotten a lot of credit for this from your comments, and I appreciate that, is I'm holding my audience to the highest level of intelligence that they possess. And by that I mean I'm not gonna pretend like I need to spoon feed you guys information. You have agency to go Google things and figure things out yourself and consult whatever experts you believe in. I think trying to tell people this is the truth because I say so is not the proper way to go about it anymore. If you think Candace Owens is full of shit, then by all means, don't trust what she says. Take it for performance art and leave it be. If you think she asks a lot of questions, gets some right, gets some wrong, then you're probably in the majority of people that believe Candace Owens when it comes to the Blake Lively story, but maybe roll your eyes when it comes to the French president. And you know what? Candace Owens is going to have to face a lawsuit and defend herself in court, and I'm very much interested to see how that goes. I think most lawyers think she doesn't stand a chance in court, but again, she's got the money to back it up and fight it, and we'll have to see. We will have to see. That's where I stand on it. I reject any attempts to silence me for covering her. And this does happen, just so people know. So feel free to hit the subscribe button because you do lose people. You lose people. You guys have seen it through my, just the reviews I've got on the Apple podcast, The Rush Hour with Dave Neal, on audio, is you get a bunch of 1-star reviews calling you anti-Semitic when you cover Candace Owens. It's amazing the level of nuclear radioactivity that comes from even discussing her, which I think is overblown, and I think it creates more of a cult around her. I say all of that just to remind people, I will think for myself. I will decide what content I want to make, and I expect and appreciate my audience for valuing that we're not going to be afraid to talk about anything, especially what Candace Owens has to say about this. So if she wants to report that there were, Israel-backed political groups that were pulling out from donating to Charlie Kirk, that doesn't imply that Israel is behind the assassination. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm holding you guys to that high level of intelligence I think you deserve. So let's just pat each other on the back for that one. We have some information regarding the FBI director, Kash Patel. This is reported by the folks over at Midas Touch, that he's considering quitting over the Epstein debacle. Now, this is obviously a little different than the Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson case, but Kash Patel was an absolute buffoon the way he handled, the Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson case. He comes in and says, we exhausted all means and therefore we found the guy. And it's like, no, the guy had a family friend who turned him in. Chill out. You don't get credit for that. But here he is, ready to dip out.
The hits just keep on coming today. We're now learning that FBI Director Kash Patel is considering resigning over the Epstein files cover-up. He is absolutely livid at Attorney General Pam Bondi for her role in this all. Of course, they never end up blaming Donald Trump, the person who's behind it all. But we reported earlier, as you remember, Dan Bongino, the Deputy FBI Director, he did not show up to work. He is considering resigning. Well, now we're learning that Patel is in the same boat. We're learning about these blow-ups happening in the White House right now. The infighting in the White House has never been greater.
All right. And look, I don't think that's great. I think it desecrates what was a respected institution, but it's very interesting. And Candace Owens will be the first to tell you that transparency is key here, right? And so as she has in the past been a supporter of Trump, but also criticizing him, I think the same can be said about Epstein. It's shocking how everyone wants to talk about and criticize the lack of releasing of the Epstein files, and also tiptoe, pussyfoot, some might say, around not blaming Trump for it. He's the one who has told the Senate and Congress not to release these files. They've created these committees to say Bill Clinton is actually far more suspect than Donald Trump is with regard to Epstein. And everyone's response is, who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? Release the damn files. And we're not going to, and again, I say this term too often, we're not going to let them piss on our legs and tell us it's raining. So we have Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary. She's getting a ton of bad press for this tweet I'm sharing right now, where it was a very valid question to say who actually approved this conversation happening in Budapest with Trump and Putin. And Caroline Leavitt's response was, your mom did. Ooh, burn. And again, this was to a Huffington Post reporter. And I say this because we actually have an update from the reporter and sort of discussing why he's come to the conclusions he has about the current administration.
Presidency.
What you make of the accusation that you are a, quote, left-wing hack who routinely attacks the president?
When I started covering Donald Trump in 2015, I did not know him at all. In New York, real estate is not a thing that I ever covered. But everything that I've learned about him, and having covered his campaign and his presidency, the views I have about Donald Trump now are those that have come from my reporting and from my watching him and from my experience. And if I don't convey my conclusions about Donald Trump to my audience, then I'm failing them. I mean, people who are watching CNN or reading HuffPost or the New York Times, for that matter, they shouldn't be expected to just get stenography and then go back and do all the historical research on what this man has said and done in the past before. I mean, I routinely say that the president lies. He does. He does. What can I do? I mean,
and again, that's absolutely factual that the president lies. He says that groceries are down. The guy's never been into a Kroger in his lifetime. He for sure likes to fudge numbers. You don't like the jobs report, fire the person. He's got a Department of Justice that's operating as his personal law firm. He accidentally tweets out who he wants his prosecutors to go after, then they go after them. This is just the objective reality. It seems as though the only defense that people have of Trump now is the whataboutisms. Well, what about Biden? Well, what about Obama? Well, there's one thing after another. And yes, Obama did deport a lot of people, but he did it in a way that was through the books and through the system, and not ripping apart the fabric of communities, searching for illegal illegals blowing up, fishing ships and things that, as we're learning, the reports coming out that they're asking the Department of Justice to lie about people being in MS-13 when they're really not. It's like, listen, we have a thing called due process. If it doesn't hold up in court, it doesn't hold up in court. Sometimes, a guilty person goes free because they don't have a preponderance of evidence. And it's, the system has said it's better to set a guilty person free than to falsely imprison someone who has done no wrong. And we still get it wrong in our country, but that's the world we live in. And yet the administration is playing on our fears. So they're trying to get it so that we abandon the Constitution, so that we don't know left from right. And, I give credit to people that are willing to call this out. Corporations don't want to call it out. They're all cowards. They're spineless, right? They're sending, they're showing up with gold-plated gifts for Donald Trump, just so that they can get a carve-out with their tariffs. And this is what Trump has wanted. Set blanket tariffs and then make people come to him and beg to him and bend the knee to him in order to get something out of it. What's interesting with Caroline Leavitt, as she wears that Christian cross on her clavicle, is that she is as guilty as they all are for being the megaphone that sets the tone for bashing the far left. It's going to be a Hamas rally. These crazy divisive things. She said she's part of the problem.
She characterized you in her response, one of her responses, as bombarding her phone. I wonder if you'd had communications with her previously in which there was a dialogue, if this was an aberration, in other words, the kind of response that you got here.
Well, the kind of response that I got is an aberration, because normally she just ignores all my questions, as does the press office, by the way. And these are the type of questions that, I'm emailing them or texting them or trying to go in and talk to them pretty much several times a week, because that.
Yeah, how funny. It's like, wow, it sounds like this guy's doing his job. She's like, you won't take no for an answer. He's like, ma'am, I work for Huffington Post. I'm actually just asking you questions because you're the press secretary. It's like Caroline Leavitt. She wants to be the hot girl, but the only reason everyone's talking to her is because she's the gatekeeper to the president. Like, what are you talking about? Here's Donald Trump saying that he's going to be jacking up our Chinese tariffs. Have a listen.
As of November 1st, China will have about 155% tariff put on it, and I don't think it's sustainable for them. So I want to be nice to China, but China's been very rough with us over the years because we had presidents that weren't smart from a business standpoint. Some were good politicians, some weren't even good politicians.
So Trump says they haven't been good businessmen. This, of course, the president of bankruptcies saying, and look, we should be so lucky that China has been as kind to us as they have been, with the rare earth minerals, and they've really. The one thing Trump has done is that he has created a new infrastructure of other countries doing trade deals without us. China realizing they can go right to Argentina for materials and can bypass the U.S. Everything Trump has done has, for the most part, hurt us because we aren't the only business in the mall, as it were. So by putting tariffs on all of these countries, they're saying, you know what, I'm going to go shop somewhere else when they can. And China, being sort of, being a dictatorship, for a better term, they can ride out these tariffs far longer than Trump can. They can ride this out for a very, very long time, and they will. And they've called our bluff. That's why they called Trump the taco, where he chickens out, right? And everyone knows his strategy already. So will these 155% tariffs affect China? Maybe, but not nearly as bad as they'll affect us Americans. And we have to remember, tariffs are a surcharge, as our Secretary of Treasury likes to put it, on the American people. Something like 90+%, like 95% of tariffs actually get passed down to the consumer. We are paying those. So if Trump wants to say, we've raised $1 trillion in tariffs, that's a tax that we have paid. And I think everyone pretty much understands it at this point. Now, what's interesting is just a few weeks ago, Barron Trump reportedly made $80 million from Bitcoin in crypto investments. He placed a multi-million-dollar short 30 minutes before his dad's tariff announcement. So what will today's tariff announcement mean for those that have insider trading? The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Well, Donald Trump's got one legal issue he's got to deal with. We'll end on this. Is he's got a legal issue that his wife has to deal with, as Melania Trump was slapped with a lawsuit by Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff says she maliciously screwed up his book deal. She's being dragged into a legal battle with journalist Michael Wolff, who has filed a lawsuit accusing the First Lady of trying to block publication of his upcoming tell-all about her life. So this will be interesting. He's accusing her of speaking with PR agencies, trying to get threatening messages to other journalists to make sure that they didn't cover his book. Hey, honey, we still have the First Amendment over here, so you can't do that, and we'll have to see what becomes of this lawsuit. You know what's interesting is Trump likes to be on the offensive with his lawsuits. He sues people for $1 billion, and then he doesn't do anything about it, or he'll sue people and then hope that they settle. Well, what's Michael Wolff going to do with his lawsuit? Is he going to back down? We'll be following this. All right, those are your updates. We'll be back in the morning. Plenty to talk to you then. We'll see you later. I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.